Hello, welcome everyone to Hear and Do the Right Thing, and I'm your host, Minister Sam. Hear and Do the Right Thing works with BBC TV3 on our joint mission to educate and inform our communities on diverse issues which impact our lives and our future. We highlight the positive attributes of the people, whether it comes from around the corner or around the world. So, surround yourself with a few positive people. Walk in love, share knowledge, and respect one another. It will make a big difference. Today on Hear and Do the Right Thing, I want to speak on this topic, preparing a solid foundation for your child. That is, preparing a solid foundation for your child. Now, you and I know that our future and the future of our society and country is dependent on the type of foundation we give our children and what we give our young people. I will look at three areas: the material needs, the mind, and the moral values that are necessary for a child's development. I want us to examine, how are we preparing our youth for the next generation? What type of foundation are we giving the next generation? Now, I believe that children are a gift and a blessing from God. They are our inheritance, and we are to prepare this gift to continue to build our nation and the world into a better place. In addition, as Christians, we are required to provide the foundation that our children can use to conform to the character of Jesus Christ. A character of loving your neighbor as yourself. A character of kindness. A character of goodness. A character of faith and self-control. Indeed, a character of doing the right thing because it's right. I believe that there is a universal question in the heart of every human being on earth. This question may scare some people, may bother some people, and may inspire some people. That question is, why was I born? Why was I born? Some people may not admit this truth, while others spend their entire lives and never discover their true purpose in life. This is a question about the purpose of your life, the purpose of the life of a child. One of the first thing every parent and adult must appreciate and understand is that every child is born to fulfill a purpose. I strongly believe that God places a purpose in the heart of every human being born into this world. In the book of Jeremiah, God told Jeremiah this: "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations." This scripture is saying that God knew Jeremiah before his father knew his mother. To me, that's incredible. And since God never changes, he knows every child before they were born. Now, God's purpose for Jeremiah was for Jeremiah to be a prophet, and God is a God of purpose. God does nothing by chance, nothing randomly. And since God does not show preferential treatment nor partiality, he also has a purpose for you and for me before we were born. When God created the earth, the heavens, and the universe, and human beings, he did it all with purpose. When God created man and woman in the Bible, it says, and God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." God did not just make Adam and Eve. He gave them instructions. Again, purpose. This is God's pattern. Everything he does is with a plan in mind. So here's my first principle. God places a purpose in every human being, So all of us have responsibility to discover our purpose. And parents and adults have responsibility to help children discover their purpose. Now, the greatest example of purpose to me was Jesus. He came to earth to die for the sin of all people, of every nation, of every ethnic group, of every nationality, to save every person from hell and the grave. He was crucified and buried. However, he conquered death when he rose from the tomb after 3 days and 3 nights. And now he's at the right hand of God, interceding for us. There is historical evidence that Jesus was crucified and rose from the dead. Jesus fulfilled his earthly purpose to destroy sin. So every person was born with a sin nature and need Jesus to be restored, to be healed, to be delivered from sin. Parents, teachers, and our elders are to help the child identify and discover their purpose. We adults are caretakers for the purpose God has placed in every child. It is vital for every parent, every adult, and every teacher to recognize that they are caretakers and guides for the children under their care and under their influence. Why? Because every child contains a God-ordained purpose. When I say every child, I mean every child. It does not matter if the child is poor or rich, if the child comes from the quote-unquote perfect family or not. The color of the child's skin or their social background does not matter to God. It does not matter if the child is disabled or not. We are to treat every child with love and compassion. Why? Because every child contains a God-given purpose. So when you abuse a child, you are tampering with God's purpose. When you hurt a child, you're tampering with God's purpose. When you discriminate or cast racial prejudice against a child, you are tampering with God's purpose. Some of us need to repent if we had hurt or hindered any child from their purpose. This means that no child is an accident. It does not matter if they were born out of wedlock, the color of their skin, their social or economic status, or even if they survive an abortion. Every child is valuable and precious to God. So every child must be precious to all of us. And we must recognize and accept this fact. Every child is valuable and precious to our families, to our communities, and to our nation. That is every child. Generally, if we ask any adult what they want their child's future to be like, the answer falls into 3 categories. Parents want their child to, number 1, get a good education, get a good job, and be a good person. The parents may not use those exact words, but the concepts are very clear. We can further define these concepts as a mind goal, a material goal, and a moral goal. Remember these 3 categories: the mind, material, and moral. So we must help to develop these 3 areas in the life of a child to give them a proper foundation. Let us look at the first category, a good education. A good education is related to the development of the mind. Please note my definition. Education is not just obtained in the class alone. As I said, education helps to develop the mind of a child. It determines how they think and their worldview, or how they see the world. They learn facts and truths about life, history, life sciences and social sciences, mathematics, and many other subjects. Tasks at home or in the community also help in this development. As a child is exposed to education and to knowledge, their ability to express their natural talents and abilities are enhanced. Parents and teachers also will have an inkling, an understanding, or even a confirmation of the child's purpose. Observation is critical to this endeavor. Now, sometimes we adults make the mistake of trying or forcing the child to fulfill a specific purpose for the wrong reasons. Our criteria for directing the child may be selfish, such as the potential earning power of a career or the prestige of a career. Some parents may want to use the child to fulfill a purpose that the parent failed personally to attain. Directing the child is in order by the parent. However, we must balance this with the talents and abilities of the child as they are exposed to education. Education is indeed vital to development because it helps children discover and fulfill their purpose. So parents must do everything within their power to ensure that the child receives the best education possible. This means ensuring that homework is completed, report cards are reviewed, and an environment conducive to study is available. Now, this may not be easy because challenges such as limited financial resources, lack of availability of opportunities, or time constraints. However, we must always seek help and support because we want God's purpose to be fulfilled in the child. The second category, a good job. This is related to the material things that a job can provide, including money, land, entertainment, car, a home, etc. We need to teach the child about life, about money, and about wealth. We must also teach how to value material things relative to the character traits like honesty and integrity. Unfortunately, you will hardly find integrity and honesty as serious topics in the classroom. This must be taught at home. Unfortunately, our society is so bombarded with the lust for material things and fame that decision making about one's purpose becomes warped. You cannot fulfill your true purpose when you worship material things. You may end up practicing unethical and illegal acts to satisfy your lust for material things and social position. You will hardly fulfill your purpose with that type of outlook. Why do movie stars and prominent people commit suicide or get caught up in obsessive behavior like drug abuse? They seem to have the best jobs, lots of money, the big house, the fancy car, clothes, etc. They seem to have the quote-unquote perfect life. But something was really wrong. One of the reasons for their tragedy is that they were not operating in their purpose and felt empty and unfulfilled. Some realized that material things cannot fulfill the longings of the soul. Material things only bring temporary satisfaction but never fulfillment. One of the mistakes some parents make with their child is to only emphasize getting a job without encouraging them to start and own a business. I believe that this is a shortcoming on how we help the child set their foundation for life. We must encourage starting a business as essential and maybe even more important than finding a job. Why? Simply because a business creates wealth better than a job. A business also helps to develop self-discipline just like a job. In addition, a business provides jobs for others. Fortunately, this mistake is declining because we are seeing more and more young people express interest in starting a business. That is a good sign. The third category, a good person. This is related to the moral character a child develops. In my opinion, the moral character is the most important aspect of the three categories. Your morality is what can make or break everything else in your life. You may have all the educational qualifications possible, all the wealth and riches that you can acquire, but without a good moral value system, all your achievements can crumble. The moral character is the most essential part of every child and adult's development. All the time in the news, we see many men and women of great achievement, high social status, high political and financial standing. They crumble. Why? Because of character flaws. It is your moral compass that is the foundation of your integrity, honesty, and character. For example, the rise of the Me Too movement is a direct response to the moral failings of prominent people in our society, especially in the entertainment world. It is really sad to see how moral failings can destroy a person's reputation, their business, and family. Why is morality vital to the purpose of a child? A true purpose is something that makes the world a better place. A true purpose looks outward to people rather than inward to self. So selfishness, arrogance, and self-importance are not consistent with true purpose. Then moral codes like integrity and empathy are identified with true purpose. I'm making a point about these three categories that address the future of the child: the mind issue, the material issue, and the moral issue. These three issues have their pattern in the Bible, in the scriptures. For me, the Bible gives a blueprint for these three categories: the mind, material, and moral. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, this is what it says: God made man out of the dust of the ground, breathing into him the breath of life, and man became a living soul. There are three central points in this verse: the dust, the breath of life, and the soul. The material or the physical body relates to the dust of the ground. The moral relates to the breath of life or the Spirit of God, and the soul contains the mind. So according to the scriptures, man is a tripart being. We have a body, a soul, and a spirit. And you see, the soul contains the mind, which is the center of our will, that is our decision making, our emotions, our memory, our imagination, and our intellect. Yes, these five characteristics make up the mind: your will, your emotion, your memory, your imagination, and your intellect. Education and morality impacts all these five characteristics of the mind. The job or the material things provide what the body wants, of course, which is basically comfort and satisfaction. So we understand then the mind is the center of the personality of the person. But it's the spirit that provides the morality of the human being to know and do what is right, and not some of the time. You and I are to do the right thing every time. So in preparing for the fulfillment of a child's purpose, we must pay attention to these three areas. But I personally contend that the most important area is the mind or the spiritual aspect of the child. Some people may argue that it is your education that gives you your values and morals. I beg to differ. Education is basically the consuming and application of information and knowledge. But how you apply that information and the value system with which that application of your education is rooted in your moral foundation. We have had many educated people who are evil and commit many atrocities. So it's your spiritual outlook that determines your character and your values. So the foundation of children is dependent also on who teaches them, what they are taught, and the amount of time they spend in learning and development. This is very critical for Christian children because the moral values that you are taught in the scriptures sometimes run counter or contrary to the values they learn in society. Let me say this: neither the school, whether private or public, nor the church, nor the media in all its formats, nor society in general, none of them are responsible for the moral foundation of a child. That responsibility belongs to the parent. The Bible says we should train up a child in the way he should go. That direction is biblical morality. Uncles and aunts and grandparents have their role to play. The school and the church have their role to play. And there is nothing wrong with seeking help from other institutions outside the family. But the ultimate responsibility for the moral development is the parents. And that is the way it's prescribed by God. This is a great challenge for parents. Now, parents, you can have a partner with the church, and together we can provide the mental and moral foundation that is necessary for our children. Now, let us look at how this occurs in real life. From ages 3 to 18, children spend an overwhelming amount of time being taught in public and private schools to develop their mind and their moral compass, compared to the time they spend at home or church. Here the numbers look like this. A child spends on average 20 to 30 hours weekly at school. Parents spend about 5 to 8 hours weekly at home in the evening to impart their values. Now, I've not considered time for homework, extracurricular activities, sports, television, and social media time. In addition, the church may have the child for 2 hours weekly to impart some moral and spiritual values. The comparison is revealing and challenging. 20 to 30 hours teaching from the society and 5 to 8 hours for parents and church. Hello? This is serious. 20 to 30 hours from society, 5 to 8 hours from parents and church. It means that parents must be wise, parents must be strategic in how they lay foundation for the life of the child. Parents, you are responsible to impart moral values to your child. Some of the lawlessness we see displayed in our society by our young people is a confirmation of the lack of moral values. Notice I said some of the lawlessness we see, because the majority of young people are not lawless. A moral character then is essential for the future of the family, the church, or institutions, or society, and our nation. A moral character is essential for how the child will fulfill their true purpose and destiny. The child will eventually influence the place where they are surrounded or where they are stationed as adults, whether they be in business, in government, church, educational institutions, media, or even Hollywood. Now, before I close, I have to answer this question. What does purpose look like? A true purpose brings peace and fulfillment to a person. Have you ever seen a person who enjoy their jobs, enjoy their business? They have a drive, a passion that cannot be taught. They are in a zone. There are young people today, right now, with a passion and desire to see cancer cured, certain diseases eradicated. You see, purpose is born in the reality of human problems, of human trials and tragedies. There are always problems to solve in the society, in the world. Individuals are born to solve and address specific problems in the world. Only you can fulfill your purpose. No one else can. The cemetery is filled with unfulfilled purpose. You have to be yourself and not try to be the person you admire or person you idolize. They have their purpose and you have yours. Parents and adults must try to help children discover what they are built to do. I know the colloquial expression is what they're good at. Help them discover their purpose. In summary, children are a gift from God, born with an ordained purpose. We are to help the child identify and develop that purpose. A good education, a good job, or a good business Good moral and spiritual values are essential to fulfill that purpose. However, I still contend that without good moral spiritual foundation, a child cannot fulfill their true purpose. They may achieve wealth and fame and still not achieve their purpose. Everything will crumble without high moral standards, without integrity, without honesty. This is the foundation for the purpose of a child. So you and I, we have work to do. I want to thank all of you for watching. Please share this information with others, with your family, with your friends. Your support and comments are welcome. Email us at hadtrt@gmail.com, hadtrt@gmail.com, or bvctv3@gmail.com, bvctv3@gmail.com. Remember, you always need to hear and do the right thing. Knowledge is powerful, but wisdom is the principal thing. Until next time, see you right here. Peace.